Let me share my screen here. See how this goes. All right, I think you guys should be coming through now. And all right. Is everyone able to see my screen there?
Yes, we are.
All right, awesome. Yes, so as a part of, so the Trust Over IP Foundation, if you're not familiar, is actually part of the Linux Foundation, focusing on, most of the groups focus on some technical stacks, but the group that I'm in here is human experience. And so we're working on some of the non-technical side of factors, looking at how can we increase our human experience, our human trust. And so during 2023, we kicked off an interaction patterns task force. And let's see if we can do, there we go. So some of the objectives that we were targeting was looking at how can we provide business value, and gain content around wallets, and then uncover any like key needs or issues that organizations have, as well as end users have with their digital wallets that they're using today. So we ran a survey at the end of last year, and this is the culmination of those of that work. So we've got three parts here. I guess I just want to double check that it is an hour-long call, right, Fahad?
Yeah, this
Okay.
is our example.
Okay, sweet. I just want to make sure that I understood the time frame here, so I didn't, go way too long, or we didn't miss out on any of the good stuff, because it kind of builds throughout the presentation. So awesome. So we had 93 total responses, with most of our responses coming from people representing individuals themselves. But we did also have a group of organizations here. And so one thing to just kind of take from this is, we were kind of looking at our demographics of our respondents, and that kind of shines a light on the rest of the, our responses here. We had mainly men, most over the age of 45, and predominantly living in the EU or North America. When it came to individuals, and then when it came to organizations, again, we had a heavy lean on North America, and as well as organizations that were building wallets. So just a couple things to kind of keep in mind as we look through some of the results, and maybe how those the results are biased based on our respondents that we got in touch with. So just another look at our demographics. Most of our respondents were either Trust Over IP members, or we'd reached out through social media posts is how they heard about us. So one of the task force deliverables that we're working on is to build out a repository from our consumer research. So it is in progress right now, and I'll share this presentation out and with Fahad, so we can get it out to everybody for afterwards. But it'll also have a link in here to where it's publicly available for you guys to see that we've got, we had a handful of our respondents that said, hey, I'm building a wallet, and you guys can, take screenshots of the work, because, everything we've got is open source or whatnot. So we were looking for some of those macro and micro patterns that customers are using. So like I said, we've got 5 public demos that will get linked in our repository and shared out. So you can check out what some of the work that other folks are doing in the community. And we're also looking at how are we going to follow up with some of these to help fill out some of our, finish out some of our deliverables. So I'm kind of going through quick here some of the beginning stuff because it's not as exciting as some of our later items here. So we'll get through some of these and we'll get to some exciting stuff. So like I said, yeah, our wallet repository here. So this will be where we'll have that linked. And the goal here is just to help the community have a set of tools. Let's see, do I have yes, I've got a nice layout here of what we're looking at of different sections. So hey, how should I handle notifications or some settings, and what are some things that some other folks have worked out that are working well for them. So kind of a vetted list of some items that maybe folks can take and implement for their own work. So then after we've got through some of our deliverables and some of our demographics on our group, this is where we started asking some questions about what were some of the needs or what were the issues that our respondents were having. So you know, we had a decent number of respondents that were positive about their experiences. They enjoyed their experiences that they have with, say, their Google Wallet or Apple Wallet, um, but also we're also concerned about vendor lock-in. Do I get locked into um, their cloud of influence or their sphere of influence? Excuse me. So one of the first questions we asked was we were looking at our end users and what kind of smart devices do they have? How connected are they? On average, our users had 4.5 digital devices, with the vast majority of them having over 4. And I think you'll see when it comes to like digital wallets, a lot of these items over here on the left are items that you would maybe expect to have a digital wallet on, a smartphone, a laptop, tablet, desktop. I think even Apple and Google have a a smartwatch or a wearable um, app, wallet app, excuse me. But we also had pretty high up on the list was a lot of folks had either a smart TV or a smart speaker. Um, and so that was an area that we kind of identified that kind of stuck out as an outlier of maybe that's an opportunity for um, to increase accessibility for folks that can't, for whatever reason, use a smartphone or a laptop very well, but they have access to using a smart speaker to help do things. Um, Now that obviously can pose some potential security concerns, with voice being able your voice with deep fakes or other things that being kind of easy to clone your voice. And so maybe that's not an area that you're like just charge right into as a first resort, but an area nonetheless that when we look at bringing in the age of digital identity to everyone, are what are some of those accessibility features that we want to, or that we are going to need to offer to ensure that people don't get left behind. When it came to using digital wallets, I think our demographics kind of shine through here, um, with the number of digital wallets that folks owned. With we had a pretty high number of folks that had 8 or more digital wallets that they were using, including one individual that said he was testing over, or he or she, that they were testing over 20 different open source wallets on the market. So just testing a lot of different devices out there, as well as we had pretty common to just have a wallet on your device. Maybe a little less common was to have a hardware wallet, or a cloud hosted device. Um, from our respondents, we kind of had a mix, and this is kind of builds up into our part 3 when we look at some of our this kind of builds into our user personas, but we basically had 60% of our respondents wanted a unique wallet for each task. So maybe something for crypto, something for digital identity, something for their fiat or their credit card payments. But then almost the rest of the respondents at 34% were like, hey, I just want one wallet that does everything. I don't want to have to mess about with which wallet did I has my credit card, which wallet has my ID in it. Um, Kind of like I imagine most of us just carry one physical wallet around with us at a time. I guess I've been going here. If there are any questions at any point, oops, skipped forward. Feel free to just chime in and ask. I guess maybe this is a good opportunity. Have there been any questions so far that anyone would like to ask about?
Yeah, I would. This is David Harding. How
Yep,
big
hi
is your
David.
sample? Hi. How big is your sample user base?
Here we had 93 respondents.
Okay.
Um,
And, and
so
and what is their background? Are these technologists? Are they end users who aren't really deep in technology? I mean, if you have five or an average of over four devices, that's it's quite a lot actually
yeah.
for your typical user who's looking at e-commerce solutions, SSI, or single SSO solutions, things like that. So kind of wondering, what the overall user base looks like that you're gleaning this information from.
Yeah, so I would say that most of them are in the technologist side. So we didn't actually we didn't pay to get our survey out to people. We spread it through word of mouth. So it kind of comes from the Technologist Trust Over IP Foundation, kind of looking outwards, if you will. So um, here was where respondents said that they came from. Um, Pretty much everyone that responded was somehow in the know. Um, Maybe with the exception of some friends or colleagues where somebody who wasn't kind of in the ecosystem. Um, so
Okay. So you were actually targeting people in the technology sector. I mean, if you look at where these people came from, they had already either subscribed to a newsletter on the topic or they were interested in it through a social media post where you got the majority, or they came from a specific SSI oriented organization. So this
yeah,
particular survey, the people that have been involved in this are very tied to the community, and they brought, and I'm assuming, based on that, they probably brought a lot of their biases and selections based on technology, not so
yeah.
much on actual end user experience. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, yep. We were asking, that's correct. Those are the folks that we brought, and then we were asking, our questions were pointed at their particular experience. So not third party, what are you experiencing as opposed to yeah. So
Okay,
that's fair to say.
thank you.
Good questions. Any others that have cropped up?
Nothing just yet.
All right. We'll keep on rolling. And like I said, feel free to chime in if you've got some questions as we're going. Um, so when it came to wallets, and we started asking about what areas were they working on today, or what use cases were people using their wallets for? Um, Quite heavily, the number one item was fiat transactions, and that's probably to be expected. Um, Using a wallet to use your credit card for. We also had access control and ticketing. Also, they're pretty common use cases today. In our red, these were functions. So in the blue or on the left side were functions that people were using, and in the red or on the right side of the double bar graph is things that consumers were not wanting to have in their wallets. And part of this, we kind of start hinting at here is we started to see kind of three groups of respondents kind of forming. And these were folks that were either using, kind of come from the crypto side and they're using Web3 wallets. So they're kind of interested in, crypto assets, NFTs, as well as they highly value privacy and the pseudo anonymous nature of crypto. And we're, for example, not wanting to have verifying counterparty ID in their wallets. And so for folks who may not know exactly, that would be like if I'm connecting to somebody, if I connect my crypto wallet to Fahad, my wallet is able to check his like ID in there and say, oh, yep, you're actually, interacting with Fahad here, as opposed to somebody who's trying to spoof me and pretend to be Fahad. And some of that gets into your wallet then being able to verify a government ID or something, some kind of ID of nature. So that was in there. We also had, signing some documents and KYC onboarding. That were some features that people were using, were excited about, but then also at the same time we're not interested in. And this is, I think, some areas where we started to see some divergence in some of our user groups. So when we were looking at some of our interactions here, particularly inside of our wallets, 84% of people found it really easy to set up their wallet. And then of those people, like we turned right around and said we had a decent number of people, like 30% said that their user experience was really bad or the worst thing about their wallet. So we found in general that the initial onboarding process of getting started with a wallet, of any wallet, was pretty good, but then actually using the wallet was kind of rough for folks. And on that note, one of the questions we've gotten in the past was, did we define a wallet for our end users? And that's something we intentionally didn't actually define what a digital wallet was or was not. We kind of left it open-ended to kind of just see what our responses we would get from our questions. So I know some folks may not consider like the Google Wallet or Apple Wallet like truly a wallet, but I think it fits most definitions of a digital wallet. And so we kind of just left it open-ended for to kind of get the most responses, to not kind of limit any responses that we had. We also had a handful of responses when it came to some other poor experiences of citing a lack of transparency or some poor communications in their wallet. As well as, to me, what was really interesting was a really high percentage of people at 42 didn't know if their wallet was backed up or wish that they could back it up. I think, again, this goes to some of David's questions of, so you did have a bunch of technologists responding to your survey. So people that kind of know what's going on and they're still not sure if their wallet was backed up. That's going to be something that, like, hey, if 42% of the general population wasn't sure, you might be forgiving of that. So I think there's some area definitely when we're looking at building out our wallets, some features that are either missing or are not clearly informed to our user base. So when we kind of clustered the responses that we had, our biggest response by far in terms of issues was that they were difficult to use, or that physical cards or other physical means of paying were faster or easier to do. And I think when we kind of dug into a little more clarity, some of these issues were, hey, poor quality with my NFC functionality on my phone, or if a loss of internet for some reason, the internet on their connected device isn't working, and so they, were unable to say pay with that digital wallet, and they had to resort to either having a physical credit card or physical payment on them, or just being left kind of high and dry and having to say, okay, sorry, I can't pay for these items today, uh, and uh, and head out. All right. Um, yeah, and so that kind of some of those lead into those real world consequences, where people concerned about not being able to pay at the point of sale, um, individuals who had experienced loss of funds or assets. I imagine if any of you have been involved in the crypto space before, of maybe making a mistake, or familiar of stories of people making mistakes of sending funds or assets to the wrong account or some other issues. So um, we definitely had some individuals who had done that. Um, and then, our other kind of cluster was people who had issues getting their wallet set up, or trying to switch around to a new wallet. All right. So we've focused, the last couple of slides were about some negative things. When we had asked about some other positive things or some other feedback, a couple of the items that we got was, hey, having my digital wallet on my phone is super easy. It's really convenient because I always have my phone on me. We had several other compliments for the user experience of the Apple Wallet or the Google Wallet, of, hey, I just don't even carry physical cards with me, or I've always found it super easy to use. Um, when we kind of got into some of the experiences for some of the SSI features today, um, we had a handful of folks that were, um, they had issues still with using the digital identity tools in their wallets, and that the user experiences just did not compare to the smoothness of say the Google or Apple wallets of the world. So some of the interactions that maybe we can see some improvements on when it comes to things is looking at some of the resilience of our ecosystem today. With paper documents or with physical money. We've had society has had hundreds or thousands of years to kind of refine how handling digital paper or physical paper and stuff works. And with the digital ecosystems being new here, some of that resilience is an area that will kind of increase that human trust that we're looking for. So some users were interested in, hey, how can we get some better integration into the phone operating systems? I imagine that this was kind of related to maybe just having a browser-based wallet, and can I get an app? Can I get an app for that? Something like that. Um, and yeah, again, looking for a few more user-friendly features, and some notes on um, being more user-friendly and less techy. And I think that maybe comes from a lot of us who are building the products today, are technologists at heart, and where we build features with technologists in mind that Given your end user, maybe they're looking for something a little different. And I think in a couple slides here, I'll get to some user personas that we really started to see shine through. And I think that'll provide a little better clarity on where I've hinted at a few times about those user personas. So, oh my God. There we go. So we asked about our users and their levels of trust that they had in their digital wallet. So from I don't trust my wallet at all to I completely trust it. And it was exciting to see that most of our folks did have high or very high trust in their digital products, with just looks like 3 or 4 folks that did not trust their products did not trust the wallets that they were using at all. When it came to some of that trust, so then we started asking what to provide you a digital wallet, and our top 2 user groups were the government or public sector and our device operating systems. And one of the respondents, to that note, added that technically they trust the Apples of the world, but they didn't socially trust them. And then they socially trust the government, but did not technically trust them. So I thought that was an interesting insight into their response. And that at the moment, one individual that had low trust mentioned that they really didn't trust anyone, and that they were looking for some additional regulation and oversight that needed to be put in place, so that if there was abuse, that they had some recourse to limit and fight against abuse of digital identities. On a positive note, though, 72% of folks were likely to recommend that the wallet they were using to their family and friends. So somebody's building some good wallets out there.
Would you be so kind as to go back one slide?
Yeah.
I find this slide kind of interesting considering your audience, because in a general consumer use, it would probably be reversed. People do trust their Apple and Google wallet. They do trust their government ID. They use it every day. They do trust accessing their banks and their bank app with whatever identity is managed there. So, I think that this, well, I appreciate the work that went into this. This is very skewed toward non-general use. Was that intended, or is that just because that was who you were targeting?
Yeah, I think that was just kind of the nature of who we reached out to.
Yeah, it's always difficult. It's always difficult when you talk to technology people. For example, they talk about trust and privacy, and yet the vast majority of your participants came from a social media post.
Yeah,
where there's absolutely no privacy, and yet that's where they continue to engage. So it's a very interesting data point.
Yeah.
Question is, how do you reach mass adoption when this is, when you're in a bubble, so to speak,
Yeah,
of
for sure.
users?
For sure. And I think kind of to your point here, David, in a couple slides, we've got a breakdown where we're kind of looking at some different kind of categories of wallets and some different categories of users, and how some of their needs and other things will be different. And to that note, the one of our user personas is kind of the working mom, the lady who, or someone who maybe has a job, has a family, They're just trying to make ends meet. They're working hard, and they're not looking to mess around with all of the different new bells and whistles, that they've got to play with. They're just looking to, hey, when I go to the bank, I want to be able to, or when I go to the store, I want to be able to pay. When I go to the bank, I want to just like tap my phone and it says, oh, yep, you are, Andy Woodruff, you're good to go. We verified you. That saves you from filling out all the paperwork. And that those, in a lot of areas, we will see an increased amount of trust that we've got. That our respondents were particularly on the skeptical side of things.
Okay, thank you.
Great questions. Great question. So kind of to that note, we started asking about how smart do you want your wallet to be? How many kind of features in there? And in terms of smart, what kind of smart features were folks looking for? Across the board, we kind of got a fairly even split, even though if it tends to lean towards being smarter than not. It's kind of fairly even. Excuse me there. One of the things, we got some responses that people were asking, hey, it'd be great if my wallet could just calculate my taxes for me based on my transactions. I assume that was probably maybe crypto related. But I guess if they only use their wallet for financial transactions or fiat transactions as well, maybe it could just your wallet could spit out your tax forms for you. We also had some options about given your personal profile and credentials, could your wallet help you navigate interactions with a new person, organization, or service? I thought that was kind of interesting that folks were interested in, I don't know, learning about other folks to help them be, I don't know if it's culturally more appropriate is the kind of the right phrasing here, but looking to help kind of navigate some interactions with new folks based on some of their credentials. To me, that maybe is a little bit of an invasion of privacy if I can just look at your credentials and figure out who you are ahead of our interaction. That kind of seems a little over imposing, but maybe there are features that you could turn on, or if we were going to have a call, something like this, you could share some of your credentials with folks so that they could get an understanding of who you were ahead of time. So in their dream scenarios, we had folks that were looking to increase, hey, can my wallet be accepted everywhere? Personalized fraud and security protections were on there, as well as identity proofing. So I'm gonna click back in. All right. So that was a lot of the questions that we asked for our individuals. We also asked a handful of questions to our organizations. And so what kind of work and questions or kind of tasks were our organizations working on? And again, these, kind of to David's comment earlier, we did have a similar, kind of group here. Most of our responses came from folks with smaller applications. They were small companies. So again, kind of a bias with our look at going to business. So most of our most of the organizations were looking to sell products to additional businesses that then interacted with customers. We had, again, a breakdown of what kind of wallets were people provided versus what were they using. So our responses were kind of looking at cloud wallets or browser-based wallets. Even though when looking at what our users said they were using, we had a bigger focus on hardware device-based wallets. When asking about some of the accessibility options that our organizations were providing, the responses were pretty clear. Most folks were just doing a visual interactions with their service. Some did offer text-based services or tactile responses. We had no respondents that were using voice interactions. Again, maybe an area where accessibility can be improved, but again, that's going to have to be done pretty carefully with some security concerns about voice cloning and other issues. Some of the accessibility features that were on offer. We did have 55% of our organizations that respond did offer multi-language support. So I think that'll be, an important item as you look at your target audience and reach out to a broad group of folks. We also had, a non-insignificant amount of respondents that just said they didn't use accessibility features and left those up to the device that their user had to have, text to chat features built in, and they were just leaving it up to the device operating system to offer accessibility features. When we looked at our users, and so how many users did they have versus what measures of success that they were using, we kind of saw two different groups here. Our largest organizations, which also tended to be towards the government or public sector, their biggest thing that they were looking for was the number of users. And I think that kind of makes sense if you're going to issue something like a national ID. The number one goal for you is to get folks using that. Whereas when it went to some of the private sector and building applications, yes, users were important, but we also saw a pretty big uptick in, the number of low complaints, or the low number of complaints being a KPI that businesses focused on. So a couple of the, when we had some of our responses, we had frustrated experience by organizations that also came through, kind of similar to our individuals, relying on around the party or verifying of things. So still kind of just slow adoption of SSI in the space, and how it being difficult to kind of work with or work around the dominance of Apple and Google wallets. So got a couple good slides coming up here. Let's want to get to those so we have time for some questions here at the end. So yeah, so when it comes to our consumers, we've got, again, kind of looking at our functionality from like before. But this time, what kind of organizations we're providing. So we've again overlaid, hey, customers are using these functions, but instead of overlaying functions that are the things that company, or no, excuse me, instead of overlaying things that the consumers did not want, we overlaid the features that organizations were providing. So again, kind of maybe a little overrepresentation here because of what our users are building, but signing documents and data, kind of coming from the SSI space, being a big item that people were focused on building tools for, yet had a small number of folks working on them or using them. So we're starting to get into a couple of the different wallet functions or wallet descriptions in our user personas here. So we have what we were calling a multifunction wallet. And this is a wallet that has a bunch of functions in it, right? So you can do fiat payments, you can do ticketing, you can use it for access control. These are kind of things that, are maybe built into a Google Wallet or an Apple Wallet today, versus something that we're calling a context aligned wallet. So these are wallets that are kind of designed to perform one function quite well, but only really one function. So this is pretty common in our crypto space, where you kind of just have a wallet that does, just crypto transactions, or maybe even just, transactions for one chain. And then we have what we call multi-wallet functions. And this is, again, back to that, just this would be a singular, a wallet that just does, Bitcoin transactions, or a wallet that just does Ethereum or just Cardano. And typically those are also adding in like hardware wallets. So you've got, an air-gapped cold wallet, cold storage wallet that's just for one thing. And those kind of wallets align fairly well into some of these user personas. So with hardware wallets, air-gapped wallets, higher security, higher complexity, and we see those most commonly used with what we call like a Web3 native. So again, a sophisticated user, very focused on security, and interesting, they were more likely to say that they were willing to pay for a wallet compared to any of the other groups. And then on the other end of that was the multifunction wallet, the one wallet that does it all, which was kind of more aligned to our working mom user persona, that they don't have the time or the patience to manage multiple wallets. They just want to get things done. Some features that would be interested to them would be something like customer service or support. And they expect easy features like or functions like backup that were there. We also see that those folks would be probably least likely to pay for a wallet. And we've got this kind of mapped out here a little bit. So on our x-axis, we have our safety and privacy, or safety and security, resilience of services, as well as then on the y-axis, our functions. So, something like a PayPal or a DocuSign is over here in our bottom left-hand corner. These are what we call like in-app wallet functions. So something that's just kind of like built into a service. So it is a wallet in a sense, but it's you're kind of using the service as opposed to using the wallet, if you will. And then when we move up the y-axis, we get to some more context-aware wallets. So these are smart wallets, something like a Coinbase wallet or some European Identus kind of services. And then over on our, as we increase the amount of personal agency or autonomy that are in our wallets, we get to some other more kind of Web3 focused products that are on the line of smart agents like Nifty, or some other services like the Blockchain App Factory. Any questions on the last slide or two at the moment?
Nothing at the moment.
All right. And then here is the kind of the last piece of that, where we've kind of mapped out the user personas kind of on that same scaling, right? So as we kind of increase our wallet functions, as well as we increase our personal agency and autonomy, you kind of see that you move across from your working mom to your digital nomad, kind of up to your Web3 native. And that where, I think is one thing to think about is where when you're building a product or a wallet or using it, what's your user persona? Obviously, here in these groups, we've laid out, three kind of different, there are 3 or 4 different wallet segments, as well as, 3 different user personas. But there's obviously many more, right? There's, each of these groups may have niches within their kind of big ecosystems, as well as there's probably some more market segments, that we don't really represent here. So, I'm relatively new to the SSI ecosystem over the past year or two. And my colleagues, Nikki and Andrew, have been in SSI for 5 or 6 years now, which is borderline since the start of kind of the movement. And seen some companies try to go with, hey, I'm going to build the one SSI wallet to rule them all. And this is kind of a good reminder that, the features and the services that we have today in the world, with our different domains or different segmentation and niches, is going to translate over well to building, products for the future. And that digital identity is no different from from those other segments. And so we'll have the wallet that this lady here is using is probably going to be a different wallet or service that our Web3 native is going to use. So a couple key discussion points that we want to kind of leave with is how can the industry cooperate to explore more of these use cases where individuals verify the ID of counterparties, including organizations. So how can we, work to increase our, what we're calling eKYC or electronic KYC, and our counterparty verification in our wallets to ensure that we're interacting with the folks that we think we're interacting with. And then how can we continue to work on our co-opetition? And is there a role for policymakers and regulators in promoting fair competition and consumer choice in the wallet market? Obviously, we're not going to answer these questions today, but just some key points to look at. And yeah, so this was a carryover from the last time I presented this, which our follow-ups have all this is outdated on the slide. So all right, that concludes my presentation. Are there any other questions? Yes, David.
I've got three in particular. I'd like to and first of all, thank you for your presentation. Well done. Glad to see the study that you put forward, and I would love to get some of the raw data actually from which the graphs were generated, if at all possible. I'm assuming that's in the area that you're sending us to with the more info that you just showed. Is that correct?
I've got to follow up on that. I could get out the full slide here. Let me follow up on sharing our raw data. It gets a little yeah. So I've recently kind of stepped up to the chair position here, and so
Okay.
that's a question I've got is how can we get that shared out? So
Cool.
it's definitely easiest. So
Well,
well, I guess I'll rephrase that to, if you're a trust over IP member, I can share it straight to the Google Drive for you.
oh, cool.
Which it's free to join trust over IP. So if any of you wanted to join, I guess that's a call to action there.
Absolutely. Yes, we'll coordinate that on our side.
Okay.
I have three quick questions and then I'll
Okay.
be quiet. It looks like your study accounts for non-wallet, basically service-based single-purpose applications that use SSI. Did you find that those were more common, or that your focus really was more on wallet, not so much on SSI DC issuance?
Our survey was fairly generic in the about wallets. So we didn't actually target our questions around SSI or other services, and it was very much a do you trust your wallet kind of questions, if you will.
Okay. So next one, do you have any data correlating, for example, wallet functionality to revenue models?
I don't believe so. I could look back at our data. I don't know if we asked any questions around revenue. We are the kind of the main focus was around trust and features. So
I
I
think
don't
what
think
would
that we
be
asked
I,
that.
the reason I ask is it would be very interesting to find how many of the wallets that you examined and got feedback for are actually subscription wallets versus those that are just free. My last question, in your analysis of providers to actual users, there's some real interesting lopsidedness in some of the orgs that provide functionality and the users that accept them. I'm assuming that the organizations that you talk about are just Web3 organizations, or like, for example, on your document signing, are you including things like Adobe and DocuSign compared to the number of users? Because I would think that that would not be the case considering CC signing data or docs. I would think that wouldn't be the case because we have a significant number of users in the community or in the world that, for example, use DocuSign and Adobe versus a Web3 document signing solution.
Yeah. Yeah, so these were responses. This was from we had basically 20, I think it was roughly 25-ish responses from organizations. And so these were kind of looking at those responses. So it would have been weighted, kind of evenly. So if somebody, I do know that, we've got a couple folks that are in Trust over IP that are from kind of Adobe, actually working on the content authenticity initiative. So if they responded, they were compared evenly to others, so yeah, this would not be weighted to, total number of users, as opposed to this was our looking at just kind of the responses that we got. And our organizations were definitely heavily weighted towards small to micro businesses. So I imagine that most of ours were, kind of more startup companies looking to build new features, new, data signing, new document signing kind of features.
Got it. So this data, just like pretty much the rest of the data, is based on just participation, not on actual market research.
Yep.
Okay, cool. No, I thank you. I'm going to be quiet again, Andy. Great work. Thank you very
No,
much.
it's uh I appreciate questions, right? It makes me know that you know, people were enjoying it. And I know that, you know, I guess maybe one way to look at it, if nobody has any questions, maybe I did it perfectly, but we know that that's, you know, nobody ever does it perfect. So Lawrence, you've got a question, your hand up. If you're speaking, you're on mute.
Lawrence, are you there?
Maybe they hit the wrong button and meant to clap instead of raise their hand. I don't know. I
Oh,
do that often in meetings.
unmute me. Let's see if I can, Lawrence, quickly. I
Ah,
can't unmute you, but I can ask to unmute. Yeah, I knew you can hear me, Anishka. I was wondering about Lawrence. For some reason he can't unmute himself. Um, we have got to, I mean, we reached the top of the hour. Andy, I've got a couple of questions as well. But
yeah.
I'm also conscious of people's time. I was wondering, would it be possible maybe if I could put a list of questions together from the community and shoot it through to you?
Absolutely.
That would
Absolutely.
awesome.
Yeah, so I am um yeah, always open for questions. And Lawrence, you could always put your question in the chat here, or I am in the Discord group as well. So if you've got questions, you can either ask them to Fahad or myself, and if it's you know, maybe not super specific, maybe then we could share it with everyone else and continue the conversation. So
Awesome.
feel free to, I guess maybe just my kind of two call to actions, or you know, think about maybe some of our key discussion points. And if you're interested in joining the Trust Over IP Foundation, we're always happy to have folks join.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us, Andy. Heartfelt thank you for taking the time to join us and obviously share your findings with us. Definitely insightful and thought-provoking, and I'm sure it sparked quite a bit of conversations within our community and will continue to do so. Before we come to the end of the call, Lawrence did have a question. Is there perhaps a list of top identity wallets in use today?
That's a great question. We did not look into that, Lawrence. So we weren't actually asking you know, what's out there. And one of the biggest things we've got is those kind of end up being ecosystem specific, if
Mhm.
you will. So the problem is, or not say problem, but right now there's a lot of focus on a lot of the wallets that exist are kind of one, you know, singular application. And some of the big ones, like there was a wallet for I'm blanking on the name of the group now, but for credit unions within the US. So a lot of the credit unions have kind of grouped together in an ecosystem. I think it's ID Union, maybe from Lohan. But you know, yeah, we didn't ask about any top identity wallet providers kind of specifically. I mean,
Mhm.
you do see some of the big players of like ID.me or kind of having ID wallet features, but maybe not in the same kind of context that you're maybe thinking about.
Okay, awesome. Perfect. Yeah, Logan says thanks. Okay. Well, I'll shoot you a couple of questions here as well because I've got quite a bit
Okay,
to ask you, but then we can share that maybe with the community later on in the week.
awesome.
Okay. Thanks, Andy, for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Oh, great. I'd hope to see you in future again.
Yes, I will be around.
Cool. Okay, everyone, it's come to the end of our call. Don't forget to keep a lookout for our voting on the logos, and please join us next week to do our maintainer call. Other than that, enjoy the rest of your evening or your day. See you guys. Bye.
Bye, everyone.